y'all, this is Janae Peters, and I'm here with this week's episode of Sunday Sitdowns. We're on episode 4, which means we're a month into these videos, and honestly, I just have a good time with this, so I hope that folks are getting something out of it, whether it's, giving you space to think about something differently in your world, if you're actually putting action behind it, whatever it is, I hope that you're finding something in it, because I'm finding something in it, and a lot of that is knowing that I'm in community with and sharing space with people who are ready to bring some intention into their shifting in their worlds. So last week's Sunday Sit Down asked y'all to reflect on 3 relationships that you value and to really try to understand the nature of those relationships and whether or not your stated values, your professed values are in alignment within the spaces of those relationships. It also asked you all to commit to action around demonstrating in some way last week that those relationships, they're meaning for you. So doing something that demonstrated how much those relationships mean to you. I still have one to go, but I was moving through, so I hope y'all are too. And if you didn't, it's not too late, because really the timeline is just to give you a structure, but it's never too late to show. Okay, I'm going to take that back, actually. It's sometimes a little too late. So let's show people what they mean to us before we can. Okay. So on to this week's topic. This week's Sunday Sit Down is shifting its focus to some physical, emotional, spiritual, intellectual kind of whatever we need in the way of self-awareness related to this topic. So the question that we're working with this week is, when and where do you feel most cared for and soothed? And what's at the root of that experience of care? So one of my best friends, Laurel, is a doula and reproductive rights activist. And on a side note, and I have to say this here in this space, I could not be more proud of her and the life that she has created. We've been rocking since the beginning of college, and Laurel is my soul person. So just always feel fed by conversations with her, and this one was no different. And I don't remember how this conversation came up, but I remember her telling me one day that something that has stood out to her in her work as a doula is how many partners of folks don't know what's needed to soothe their partner while in labor, right? So when you're trying to get someone comfortable, trying to encourage, empower, whatever those things are, it seems striking to Laurel that there are cases where the partner is really having to learn how to soothe that person. And she didn't say this, but I also wondered if that person is even aware of how they want to be soothed or cared for in that moment. And I've thought about this a lot since then, particularly, I thought about it outside of labor with different types of hurt, sadness, pain, big transitions, big shifts, big moves, just sort of big events, right? Like, what does it look like? What does it look like for us to be cared for, to be soothed? And how do we articulate that? And how do we know? Do we know? When I thought about this one for me, I thought about some of the things that I say about myself when it comes to feeling or thinking or believing. And I have said for a long time, that I have a high pain tolerance. And I don't even know where I got that from for real. Like, I think that some of that is a resilience thing. Like, some of it is like having had to have been strong in different ways and feeling proud of that in a lot of ways. And when I really started to think about it, I actually started to wonder, like, if I was actually becoming numb. And then I thought, I don't think I'm numb to it. I think I have an awareness of it. And I realized that I think I was actually becoming hardened, right? Like, so desensitized, which was not numb for me, but really hardened to different experiences, which actually made it hard for me to think about and articulate what it feels like to be soothed or to care for, because I got it. I can figure this out myself. I don't need anything. I don't need anyone. Couldn't be further from the truth. And that's something that I'm working through now. And I think about this. So as we learn about ourselves, and we talked a couple episodes ago about learning about ourselves as a form of self-care, becoming aware of our needs in that way. I thought about all our different access points to really thinking about soothing and care. And if you tend towards the emotional, right, then I think your way into this question is really thinking about what does it feel like to be emotionally soothed? Like, what brings you from a heightened or intense emotion to an emotion that brings you more steadiness or a sense of calm? If intellect is your access point for learning and thinking, then what does it feel like for you to be held in that way? Like, what creates the conditions for your sort of intellectual prowess to strive, and what are your needs when you run up against that complex theory, or that complex human who challenges all the theories that you've created about what should be and how that works? If you tend toward the spiritual, right? What happens when there's turmoil for you and you're looking to be cared for and soothed? All these things really, and outside of emotional, if you tend toward the physical, if you are an all out, sort of, I'm angry, I want to punch something, right? Who soothes you, right? Or what does it feel like to be soothed? What are the conditions that need to be met for you to have that experience of safety, security, and calm in that way? As I thought about what might be barriers to folks being able to identify themselves, what it feels like to be soothed and cared for, and what's at the root of that for them, I started to think about society's expectations for how we handle things, right? Or for how we express things, even. It's not even handling. And what do society's expectations for acceptable ways to express grief, anger, or even happiness, pain, other intense things, like what do they contribute to our ability to engage with feeling cared for and soothed effectively and from a place of authenticity? So if I'm more of the emotional, physical type and I hold a lot and I express mine and it's very intense, where's space for that in this world where I would argue, and I think there's a great foundation for this argument, that it's not really acceptable to be super angry or to be super expressive or emotive unless it's for joy, right? So like, what does it look like for that person to experience soothing and care from a place of authenticity? That really matches with how they learn and how they express. And what do we understand about our needs in that way? What do our relationships understand about those needs? As I think about this for me, I can get real tight. Like my shoulders are almost like rocks. You can kind of hear it now, right? So if I'm getting tight, then that means that I'm actually, even if I'm calm, I might not be feeling soothed or cared for. When I asked my partner, my fiance, I asked, if I was having a really bad day, like, what's the thing that you would do? He said, oh, I would make you some tea. I would try to do anything to make sure that you don't have to do anything, like just things that clear up things for your day. And when I thought about that in my world, I think that is 100% a way that I have felt cared for in this relationship. And I think that's a thing that I really appreciate when people can do that for me. If you can remove the obstacles, like things that are within your power to remove from my day, I actually very much feel cared for, because it, to me, feels like it's honoring my time. It's honoring your understanding of what's on my plate, like all those things. And when I thought about, though, what I don't express, right, and the ways that I don't feel cared for, it's, and he's identified this, even though I've kind of hardly ever really let this out, but I can get angry, but I don't know how to express it for real. And I think some of that expression has been repressed because of society's expectations for what's acceptable. And beyond that, because I think that's like a small percentage of it for me, I think my body gets really uncomfortable with expressing my anger, so it holds it in. And I went to get a massage on the other day, my first massage in almost 2 years because of this pandemic. And what was supposed to be an hour massage turned into 2 because of how much I need it, right? And everything was tight. This was tight. My back was tight. My neck was tight. My, lower back was tight. My glutes were tight. It was just everything. And so this question of soothing and care is an immediate one for me. And I had this question in mind before that experience this weekend, but it made it more real for me. And so I want us to think about this because I don't think I'm alone in not necessarily feeling able to fully engage my inner experience outside of myself. And so I really want us to really try to identify when and where we feel most cared for and soothed, and what's at the root of that experience of care. And then for this week's action item, the ask is that you take stock of your needs for care and soothing. So as you answer that question, think for real, for yourself. And you can bounce this off of those around you, people who see you, just to see what that looks like for you. But really, this is a you thing too, because no one can tell you when you feel cared for and soothed. So this is for you. Take stock of your needs for care and soothing. Note where you feel tension and stress, and what types of soothing techniques you can ask for of yourself, of your environment, of your relationships when you need them. And start to bring them into your awareness so that we can do something about them, because, we're, again, not that this is about being accessible to others, is also about being accessible to ourselves. But if we're just holding, if we're just tight, if we're just tense, right? We're doing harm to our bodies. And I want us to be free in all the ways, right? So think about these. If you are up for it, please let me know however you want to, in comments, by DM, whatever feels good to you, by phone call, if you got it like that with me. Let me know where this is landing for you, because I would love to talk more about this. And don't forget, don't be afraid to enlist others in the soothing and care of you. So it doesn't have to be just you doing it, but you do need to really identify your needs around it. So I hope y'all have a good week. So we're coming into our halfway point for July, or we've just passed our halfway point for July. And, that's also, we're in that downswing towards the end of 2021. And my goal for all of us, anybody who's in this community or adjacent to this community, is for us to be able to name these things and do something with it. So identify them, talk to your people, take good care, and I'm looking forward to next week's Sunday Sit Down. All right, y'all. Peace. Thank you so much for listening to, watching, or engaging with the Prolific Shift Sunday Sit Down with Janae Peters. If you liked anything you heard, please don't hesitate to comment, like, subscribe, or support in any of these ways, and especially through your love and care. Peace, and I'll see y'all again soon.